And if the apple hasn't fallen far from the tree, well, you better believe your kids also want to keep every masterpiece that they've created. So, how do we nip things at the bud or address the root cause? Parenthood is challenging enough as it is, and getting organized sounds easier said than done. Now, combine these two together, and it's truly a balancing act that many of us struggle with day in, day out. If you're here, it's because you want to know how to get your life and home more organized and structured where the kids are involved too, so that parent life is a little easier and you can focus on what truly matters. Hey there, I'm 𝙤𝙤𝙢𝙚𝙣, owner and founder of One Tidy Place. I created this podcast because I know parents have their hands full. I know this because I have 3 kids of my own. Each week, we'll talk about all things organizing, teaching kids life skills, and contributing to the home, being on the same page with your partner, and raising your kids together while you tidy up, go out for a walk, or just need some real talk. I'm here for you. Thank you for tuning in. Are you ready? Let's do this. Well, hey there, friend. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Parenting Guide Organizing Habits Made Easy podcast. My name is 𝙤𝙤𝙢𝙤𝙣. If this is your first time being here, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so happy you found this podcast, and I hope you stick around. I hope you enjoy this episode. Teach kids how to store their papers and get some great tips and inspiration from it. Now, if you're a regular listener, welcome back, friend. It's so nice to have you here again. Now, if you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button and follow from wherever you're listening to this podcast. Recently, a mom friend sent me a message out of the blue asking me about a very popular issue most parents with preschool and school-aged children struggle with, myself included, until I had a strategy and action plan. What I liked about how she framed it is that it wasn't your typical Google search question. This went deeper in thought, even though the results were the same, containing the clutter and giving the items a home. I absolutely loved this question because it was about nipping the issue at the bud and addressing the behavior as opposed to just finding organizing solutions using physical things like better furniture or using separators like bins or file folders. These are all great solutions to contain the clutter and chaos, but it doesn't solve the ultimate problem, how we go about dealing with our things. I get it. We're all looking for quick fixes and solutions to deal with the chaos and disorganization in our home. With free shipping and next day delivery, it's so easy now to get our hands on things that will help solve our situation. But is it really solving the underlying issue? If we don't have strategies and plans set beforehand when new items come into our home or when we see a sale or deep discounted items, we are so tempted to take advantage of these hot deals that we buy more than we really need or even have space for. Our home feels like it's cramped and our minds become cluttered too because we have to deal with organizing and managing the excess. Well, in this case, it's not about deals or sales, but it's about items that keep coming in from the creative minds of our little ones, and they produce some really beautiful, heartwarming, interesting, and almost magical things, don't they? We want to keep them all. And why not? They came from the most wonderful beings in the world, our children. And if the apple hasn't fallen far from the tree, well, you better believe your kids also want to keep every masterpiece that they've created. So, how do we nip things at the bud or address the root cause? Well, I think the title of this episode gives it all away. Teach kids how to store their papers. Now, if you do a Google search, storing kids' artwork, you'll get millions of strategies, tips, and tricks to organize them. But what do you do about teaching them how to store their work? I call this a perfect teaching moment. So thank you, friend, for asking this question because you truly are not alone here. So the very first thing I always do when it comes to introducing a new system or teaching kids a new method or even just starting a conversation about any topic, what I do and strongly encourage my clients, my friends, and anyone really who wants to get their family to implement or learn something, it's this: get on the same page with your partner. So whether that's your wife, your husband, grandparents, whoever is highly involved with helping you raise the kids, have a conversation with them. Why? Here are two main reasons. Number one, because the whole implementation process, managing the day-to-day, and maintaining the organizing system will be a whole lot easier when the parents and guardians are all on board and they all know what's happening. Which results to number two, in a ripple effect. The kids see this as a united front and know there's no messing around or coming up with their own rules because the message is the same regardless of which parent is talking. And the ripple effect of this, when they become adults and have their families, such stronger relationships. So basically, start the conversation. What is it that you want to do? How do you think it should be implemented? And then discuss it with your partner or your spouse. And finally, set an action plan that you both agree on and move on from there. Are you planning a birthday party for your school-age children? I've created a one-page PDF template for you to use at your next and future birthday parties, or for anyone you know that's hosting, just in case poop hits the fan. And when it does, who's that go-to person? My guess, it's probably you, but you're busy answering and tending to all those who need your attention, calm, and information. Someone's got to get hold of the guest's parents, but the contacts are in your locked phone, and your friends, your spouse, your mother-in-law want to help. There's a lot going on and falling on your shoulders. This is why I got you covered. Download and print my free PDF to include the names and emergency numbers of the kids' parents. Having this on hand at your next party saves time when time isn't something to waste here at all. Grab it here at dianejimenez.com/ICE guest list, all in one word. Print it out and be ready for your next party. When we renovated our home a few years ago, we didn't rehang the pictures and artwork back up on the walls just because life was happening, and I think we just never really found that piece that we both loved to hang up on the dining room wall. So right now, in the short phase of our kids' lives, where they're constantly producing artwork from school and doodles that they do every day, we hang it up on the wall until it falls off on its own. And then what? Which brings me to number 2 of teach kids how to store their papers. Teach kids to be aware of their surroundings. So, like I told my mom friend, and having done this with my own kids, you gotta get real with them and literally show them the space that you have of where the papers are right now, whether it's all in a box, shoved in their drawers, or all over a table. Just do a visual scan of the space around them. Point at things to show them, what do you see? For example, I'd say, see these papers and how they're sticking out or almost ripped? Or see the piles of papers here and there? And look inside here. There's more over here. Get them also to verbally say what they see. Then I also add this. I know you took a lot of time to create this, or you love to draw, write, paint, etc. And we love that you do all of this. But it's important to also take care of our things that especially you put so much time and effort into doing it, right? So going through the observation process with them and getting their opinion about the space their papers are taking versus the space they actually have for it allows for them to grasp the big picture and brings them back to the here and now. You're supporting their creativity while also offering structure. Now that you've had this awareness conversation about the home you all share, it's time to get down to the nitty-gritty, which brings me to number 3 of teach kids how to store their papers. teach kids about boundaries. So we got them to really step back and how much space their things are taking in the room and in the house. Because let's face it, oftentimes it does take over several rooms in the house. It's high time we teach kids about boundaries. And there are two main points to respect here when it comes to this: home and maintenance. What do I mean? Whether the home for their papers is a binder, file folders inside a bin with a lid, or scrapbook, or a combination of all of these, establishing a proper home is step one. Step number two is about what we do with the excess papers or when the maximum capacity inside that chosen home has been reached. These two steps together are crucial in order for them to grasp this whole concept about boundaries. Now, the easy part is finding the home because it involves the physical thing that will hold all of their creations. Like I mentioned before, searching it up on Google will result in millions of ideas, tips, and tricks on how to store kids' artwork and papers. The second part, though, maintenance, it's not so fun or sexy. In fact, it requires some rule setting, following through with said rule forever and ever. Well, checking in from time to time with them to see if your rules are still applicable and if the system is still working. This part of the process is the tough and challenging part because it requires a little bit of effort and, our good friend, consistency. That alone takes a lot of discipline. Anyone who's trying to live a better and healthier lifestyle knows what this is like. It's a lot of mental work. See, not sexy. But maintaining that home neat and organized is crucial for success. And success? Yeah. That's pretty sexy. Okay, the rules you set don't have to be so heavy or complicated as I made it sound just now. We're here to teach kids about how to store their papers after all, right? So let's keep it simple, shall we? There are only so many pages in a scrapbook, inches the rings of a binder will allow, or number of files you can fit in a banker box. When that home is starting to look chaotic again, it's time for the second point of teaching boundaries. That's crucial for success. Establishing this rule or rules that once the limit is reached, it's time to toss or recycle. In other words, whenever something's new or something is created coming in and inserted into the home you or they chose, there has to be something else that needs to go out. So applying the one in, one out rule here is key. If the kids have multiple pages they want to keep, then the same amount of pages or more have to go out. And going out doesn't mean going into another binder or bin. It has to no longer be in your actual house. So recycle or toss it. Think of it this way. Imagine that binder or scrapbook being a container on their shelf or on a desk. And that shelf or desk is a container itself. Then their room is a bigger container, and the different rooms in the house are other containers too. And finally, you guessed it, your house is the biggest container. So what happens when the smallest container fills up? The contents spill over into the next bigger container, right? Then when that fills up, it affects the next, and so on. By the end of it, the biggest container, your house, it's just filled with all the things that the one in, one out rule could have nipped at the bud inside the smallest container way back when. Now, this spilling over goes unnoticed for years and years and years, and can take even longer to realize and finally do something about it, not to mention the cost and mental load associated with keeping everything and having to deal with it afterwards. So I encourage you, as you teach the kids, to really take the time to go over the rules with them. Heck, do it as a family and instill it with one area, like this topic we're talking about today, the kids' papers. Now, in the case with our kids, the home for their artwork is inside specific files with their names on it, which are inside a closed bin. But before it ends up in there, the artwork is first displayed on our dining room wall. Then the rule we apply here is if the artwork falls because the sticky tack dried up, it's time to toss or file in their folder. And for drawings done on scrap paper, they get recycled if they're just lying around. So far, the cheap dollar store sticky tack has been holding their things up since the beginning of the school year. So you can imagine that our art wall is pretty full. You can see it on a couple of my videos on YouTube or follow me on Instagram to catch a glimpse. I link these two accounts on this episode's show notes. But here's where we draw the line on the sand and teach kids about respecting the limits and boundaries. When there's no more room, or it gets looking like it's too cluttered for our liking, then it's time to decide which one will be taken down. Now, I have to side note something here and add that touching base with your partner or spouse to ensure you're both still on the same page is highly encouraged. As you know, it's totally normal for people to change their mind or come up with other solutions or perspectives over time. Sharing these ideas and thoughts with them, or them with you, just keeps you both in check and strengthens the relationship, which is a great model for the kids and their future relationships. In essence, getting the older kids involved or making decisions for your younger ones by asking, what are we getting rid of so that this new piece stays, is about respect. Respecting their surroundings, the people who live in the house, and the decisions that were set by you, or if they're older, themselves. So they're actually respecting themselves too. Having them involved ensures that they will follow through with their agreement and stick with it long term. Oh, the ripple effects of these positive habits and discipline being instilled. Friend, you're on the winning path with this whole parenthood thing. And like I mentioned about checking in from time to time with your partner about the decisions you've made, the same rings true with your kids. Are they following through and able to maintain the organizing system and structure that was established? If not, time to have that conversation with everyone about where the kids are stuck. Maybe the rules need to be clearer or simplified even more, or maybe the home needs to be reworked. Whatever the issue, touching base and reevaluating your organizing system is not uncommon. As life keeps going, your lifestyle also adjusts and changes the way we move and do things around the house. So it's only natural for your organizing system to also move with you. Organizing is dynamic. So there you have it, my friend, my mini training entitled Teach Kids How to Store Their Papers. Let's do a quick recap, okay? Number 1, have a conversation with your partner. By being on the same page and showing a united front, we teach kids that there's no messing around or second guessing about the way things run in the house. Number 2, teach kids to be aware of their surroundings. Giving them this perspective about how their things are distributed all around the house, its effects on the home, and all of you who are sharing this home, as well as looking at how they care for their things, are crucial for their development and respect. Which brings me to number 3, teach kids about boundaries. Establishing proper homes for their papers and the rules to apply for maintaining this home is the final step on how to teach kids about storing their papers. This step is long-term, whether the home for their papers needs to be tweaked or the rules made simple and clearer. It's all part of this process for building this new habit. Okay, so you've heard me say this before. Organizing is dynamic. There is no one and done thing about it, especially since life has us moving, changing, and evolving. So touching base with your partner and the kids from time to time about these rules and structures you all established will not only make your family bonds more connected, but help the kids to become awesome, capable adults because they have you as role models. So your action item for today is step back and see where you're at when it comes to your kids' papers. If it's implementing a rule, are you and your partner on board to show up as a united front Or is the rule clear and simple for your kids to follow through? If you're nowhere near implementing, you are more than ready to start at the conversation stage with your partner. Let me know through DM on Instagram or Facebook at @OneTidyPlace and tell me which step you're at so that I can cheer you on. I can't wait to hear from you. All right, my friend, thank you so much for listening to this episode today as you go about your day. Your time is precious, and I'm so thankful and grateful to you for spending some time with me. I hope you found today's podcast helpful and insightful. Remember to send the link to another parent or group of parents in your circle. Share it on social media. You never know who needs some guidance, direction, and clarity with their organizing and parenting journey. I'll see you next week, okay? Same time, same place. Bye-bye.